Phil, what are you reporting tonight?
Lawrence, this has to do with a tweet that was sent out by President-elect Donald Trump, and essentially what he said in the tweet is, had a pleasant conversation with Bill Ford, who is the chairman of the Ford Motor Company. Good news, they're not moving Lincoln production to Mexico, staying in Kentucky. At first blush, if you saw this tweet, you would think that Ford, which has been bashed over the last year by Donald Trump for its plans to move small car production to Mexico, at first blush, you would think that Ford is reversing course, is deciding that, you know what, instead of building these small cars in Mexico, we're going to build them in Kentucky. Well, we've chased this down, and most people that we've talked with in the Ford Motor Company, they're scratching their heads because the plan for future production of vehicles in Mexico never involved moving a Lincoln model down there. It involves moving a couple of small cars from a plant in Mexico, or I'm sorry, outside of Detroit, and then taking those assembly lines and building a new SUV and a new small pickup, not losing any jobs in Michigan. So near as we can tell, this is a tweet where Donald Trump is perhaps taking a congratulatory call from Bill Ford, and in the course of that conversation, this is purely deduction, in the course of that conversation, perhaps Bill Ford said, look, we have no further plans than what we've already announced to move any other production to Mexico. These vehicles that are built in the U.S. are staying in the U.S. That includes X, Y, and Z. The Lincoln MKC is built at the Louisville assembly plant. It's staying there. And perhaps Donald Trump said, well, great, I've made my point. That's as much as we can tell at this point, Lawrence, because it's one of those tweets that has people in the auto industry tonight scratching their heads a bit because Ford never said it was moving the Lincoln SUV out of Kentucky and down to Mexico.
Phil, thank you for this, because this tweet came out just as I was walking into the studio, and my first reaction to it was, I don't remember Ford ever saying that they were moving any assets out of Kentucky or closing any assets in Kentucky or any assets having to do with Lincoln. And so those are the two specifics in the tweet, is Lincoln and Kentucky. And you're telling us that there's never been a Ford Motor Company plan to move anything from there.
Correct. The Lincoln MKC is built at the Louisville assembly plant. It's where they build their SUVs, not just for Lincoln, but for Ford models. And the plan is to continue building those there. Unless something radical has changed in the last couple of hours, and believe me, you would start to hear from union representatives and other people if that were the case. Near as we can tell, there is no plan to move Lincoln production down to Mexico. Never was.
CNBC's Phil LeBeau, thank you very much for chasing that one down, Phil. This confirms what I suspected as I was walking into the studio tonight. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Phil.
You bet.
I think the characterization of it was what someone made a moment ago was correct. It was a congratulatory call, and he decided he would make himself the hero of this little narrative, even though there was no basis of it. Either he misinterpreted it or he's being a fabulist. Either one of those things is easily believable. But, but I think Steve is largely right. That's a narrative that he's going to want to push out there, truth or not, because he recognizes that a lot of the blue-collar workers that have come out for him, particularly in the Midwest and in the industrial belt, are going to find this story very appealing, even if it wasn't real.